Well, coming up, I'll speak with NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, and we'll discuss the speech from the throne and the return of Parliament with our panel of parliamentary journalists. But first, let's bring in Federal Cabinet Minister Karina Gould to look ahead to the speech from the throne. She is Canada's Minister for International Development. She joins me from Burlington, Ontario. Minister Gould, first of all, thanks for taking time to speak with me tonight. It's good to see you. You were part of the Cabinet retreat to flesh out the content of the speech from the throne. What should Canadians expect to hear on Wednesday?
Well, first and foremost, Peter, Canadians should expect to hear a plan for dealing with the current situation that we're in. I think, as you know, the numbers have shown over the past week in particular, we're certainly not out of the woods when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we still have to address the very real concerns and very real issues that Canadians are facing, both when it comes to our primary concerns with protecting people's health and safety, but also making sure that we're taking care of the economy and the economic well-being of Canadians.
So can you give us some sense specifically of what that means in terms of, I suppose, I mean, a lot of Canadians are probably wondering whether the government will be dialing back economic supports to get people back to work, even as the COVID-19 case numbers, as you pointed, are rising again. What can you tell us about the level of support that those Canadians who've needed help will continue to get from the federal government?
Well, as the Prime Minister has been very clear, our government will be there for Canadians at every step through this crisis that we're in at the moment. So whether it was the income supports that we provided, and those will be changing from the CERB to back onto EI in the coming days, as well as the new Canada Response Benefit to make sure that those who don't qualify for EI still have continued support. But also, making sure that our restarting and our reopening of the economy is safe. We've seen from other countries around the world who thought that they had the pandemic under control, or at least, we're moving in a positive direction, that if you move too quickly and you don't do things in a prudent way, that you can see a very strong resurgence of cases. And so, as I said, and as the Prime Minister has been very clear, our number one priority is the health and safety of Canadians. And so as we look to restart the economy, we're going to be very focused on making sure that we're doing it in a safe way, that we can get people back to work in a way that is safe, that protects their health and safety, and that we're looking at investments that are going to continue to put us back onto a path of economic growth.
But will the speech from the throne commit to Canadians? For instance, you may have seen some of the studies that suggest that this conversion, moving people off CERB onto employment insurance, that in some cases, I think it's 2.7 million people will be getting less money than they got under the CERB. Is that what they should expect to continue, or will the government be making sure that they are receiving the same kind of support they had up until now?
Well, certainly with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, I mean, that was a temporary measure to deal with the immediate issue of, the millions of people who were either laid off or lost their jobs as a result of the response to COVID. And we wanted to make sure that we got through that most difficult period of time and the immediate urgency that we all faced. We recognized that that was not going to be a permanent situation and response, which is why we've taken, the time over the last 6 months to transition people back onto EI and created this new benefit as well. We recognize that there is an important balance of, making sure that people have the support they need if they don't have a job and they don't have income coming in. At the same time, making sure that, if there is a job to go to, that people are returning to work, but in a way that is safe, that will protect their health and protect their safety. So we're very focused on maintaining that balance. I think the measures to make sure that people could go home and stay home so that we could flatten the curve in the spring were really important and what put Canada on such a good path.
But I guess a lot of people are worried that that's where we're headed again, and that a lot of people might be into another lockdown, people forced to stay at home, and the issues that accompany that. And I guess can they be assured that they'll be treated the same way in terms of government economic supports as they were in the first lockdown?
Well, so this is exactly why we have, strengthened the EI system to make sure that it can respond to people if they do need to return home or if they are laid off. And that's exactly why we've put the Canada Response benefit in place as well to make sure those who don't qualify for EI have a support. And I think the other important thing to recognize is that, we're going to have to do it on a regional basis. I think we're very much hoping that we don't get to a position where the whole country returns to a stay-at-home order and measure, and that's why it's so important that we've made the investments in contact tracing and testing, so that we can be really clear and understand where outbreaks are happening, and then deal with them on hopefully either a municipal or regional basis, so that we don't have those widespread kind of shutdowns. But I think this is also a really important point in that, I think a lot of people were hoping that, as we got through the spring and summer, that the fall would be, completely about recovery. But I think what we've all realized is that, COVID is really here with us, and we're going to be living with it for a while. So we need to make sure, and this is precisely what the speech from the throne is going to be about on Wednesday, is that Canadians can rest assured that the Government of Canada will be there to support them as we continue to live with COVID-19, that we're supporting their health and safety. We're dealing with the very real anxieties and stresses that people have, from being parents and worried about, childcare arrangements and working from home, having to go back to work, the issue of going back to school, for people who are still looking for income supports. I mean, there's a whole range of things that people right now are anxious about. And, our response in the speech from the throne is really going to demonstrate that we're going to continue to be there for Canadians.
The speech is going to look forward too about what happens after we get through how to rebuild the economy, although it's not. It may have been the key focus a month ago, but it's not the key focus anymore, we're told. Is it too early to talk about rebuilding the economy while we're still in the midst of the pandemic?
Well, so I think it's important to talk about what rebuilding can look like. So we still have to very much deal with the situation right now, but we also have to recognize that this is also a time that we should be thinking and making those investments, so that once we are able to get through the pandemic, that the Canadian economy can really take off once again. We were in a very strong fiscal position at the beginning of this year. We continue to have space to make those investments. And so it's important for us to be grounded in reality, but also to look towards the future. And that's exactly where this safe reopening and safe restart is really important.
Just have about 20 seconds here. That's the pandemic response we'll hear about in Canada. You're the Minister of International Development. Will the speech from the throne commit a dollar amount to the COVAX facility? That's the international fund to help poor countries get access to a COVID-19 vaccine when it's available. Will we hear about that in the speech from the throne?
I don't know, because I'm waiting to see what's in the speech from the throne as well. But what I can say is that Canada is committed to the COVAX facility, and we are committed to an equitable, accessible vaccine right around the world.
All right, Karina Gould, thanks so much for your time tonight, Minister. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, thank you, Peter.